So in this lesson, we're going to review how to divide decimal numbers with decimals, but we're specifically going to be looking at when your divisor has a decimal point, which is the 6th grade version of this. So remember, our standard is that you have to be able to fluently compute with numbers that are multi-digit decimals, specifically add, subtract, multiply, and now we're here at divide. Okay, so when we're dividing numbers with decimals, okay, there's 4 things we got to make sure we do. Okay, first we're going to rewrite the problem using the long division symbol. So we're going to write it with the, okay, so our problem has 13 and 8/10 divided by 4/100. Okay, so done. Now what we need to do is, the problem right here is we cannot have a decimal in our divisor. So this number, if there is a non-zero digit to the right of the decimal point, we have to multiply it by 10 until there's no more decimals. So remember, every time you multiply by 10, we move the decimal point to the right once. So it's going to take us multiplying by 10 twice, or times 100, to get it to be 4. Okay, so here's my problem. I'm multiplying it by 100 by just showing I moved the decimal point to the right twice. But I have to do an equivalent multiplication to the dividend. So I got to multiply the dividend by 100 also. So I'm going to multiply it by 10, which gives me 138, but I got to multiply it by 10 again to give me a multiply by 100, which means I need a 0 as a placeholder between the 8 and the decimal point. And now, remember, you move your decimal point up from the dividend to the quotient, and then we divide like we've been taught before. So now our problem is 4 is our divisor, and 1,380 is our dividend. So now we divide as usual. 4 goes into 13 4 times. 4 goes into 13 3 times. 3 times 4 is 12. 13 take away 12 is 1, so now I bring down my 8. 4 goes into 18 approximately 4 times. 4 times 4 is 16. I subtract, get a 2, so now I bring down my 0. And then 4 goes into 20 exactly 5 times. So the quotient is 345. Okay, so here's some practice problems. So what I want you to do is try and set this one up and see what you get. Okay, so if you set it up correctly, you should have 20 and 35/100 divided by 2 and 5/10, like that, and then we're multiplying both of them by 10. So we get 25 is our divisor, and 2,035 is our dividend. Okay, so now go ahead and do the long division, and let's see how you did. Okay, so 25 doesn't go into 20, so now we go into 203, so that goes in 8 times. 8 times 25 is 200, leaving us 3, so now I'm going to bring down the 5. 25 goes into 35 once, so I have 10 left over. So now remember, when you reach the point where we still have a remainder, but we have nothing else to bring down, you add a decimal point. Remember, after the last number you brought down, and then also make sure you put it in your quotient, and now you can go ahead and add as many zeros as you want to keep going. So I'm going to bring down a 0. 25 goes into 100 exactly 4 times. So our quotient is 81 and 4/10. Okay, so this problem says 1 divided by 2 thousandths. Okay, so let's see what we get. So go ahead and pause a second and set it up. Okay, let's see what you got. So we got 1 divided by 2 thousandths, but then we need to go ahead and multiply by 1,000 to get the decimal point to the right of the 2, or move it 3 times to the right. So now the 1's decimal point is to its right. So we're going to multiply it by 1,000, or multiply it by 10 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So our problem ends up being 1,000 divided by 2. A lot easier, huh? 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. And then, even though it's a remainder of 0, we haven't brought down all the zeros. So in this case, remember, when everything else is a 0 and there is no remainder, you can go ahead and assume that the rest of them are going to be zeros. If you want to go ahead and go through it, you can go ahead and do this. And we get 500. So it seems weird if that 500 is our answer, because we started with 2 small numbers and we did division, we got 500. But what we're doing is we're taking 1 and we're breaking it into teeny tiny portions, which is equal to 2 1,000ths each. And that's why it's dividing into and getting us a 500. Okay, that was a quick review for dividing. We talked about this in class already, but this was just go ahead and go over the steps and make sure you understand how to set it up, and then do the long division.